Part 3 finally uploaded, the Trespasser trilogy finally comes to a close, and I would like to share a glimpse of what went into making this trilogy, including story outline, Blender animation, cinematography, as well as filmmaking principles and concepts, specifically horror filmmaking. Let's get into it. How I generally go about making these episodes is I begin with writing several shots that I think would be cool into my notes app on my phone. This is a relatively slow process, as most creatives know. Ideas don't just come flooding into one's mind at will. It takes time and it takes inspiration. Ideas could come from anywhere. Once I have the basic story outline in mind, I wanted to capture the same level of suspense and anticipation that I experienced in some of my favorite horror movies, specifically home invasion films. The obvious inspirations come from the films No One Will Save You, A Quiet Place, Signs, and of course the raptor kitchen scene from the original Jurassic Park. I remember the first time I watched that scene, I was absolutely invested in Tim and Lex, and I thought the build-up to the raptors was intense. I have had a huge amount of comments on my previous videos requesting to see raptors. I've had a few ideas in the past, putting the raptors in an enclosure in Jurassic Park and have them causing havoc. But then I remembered the feeling the kitchen scene gave me, and I said, no, if I'm going to introduce these guys, it's going to be in the same vein as the original movie, stalking our protagonist in a man-made setting, playing cat and mouse. Let's go back to part 2. The pterosaur has appeared in front of our farmer, who is fearlessly firing rounds at this creature. In response, he is flung onto the house's roof. I think this was one of the slower animations to create. It's normally the case that when there's a good amount of action on screen, animating said action takes much longer than the slower, longer, more suspenseful shots. This is because timing needs to be perfected. The animation is time-consuming and tedious, literally honing things frame by frame, attempting to get the physics correct. But at the end of the day, if I'm not 100% happy with a certain animation, I turn to the animator's best friend, motion blur. The faster things move, the less detail is required. Since our cow made a run for it at the beginning of the episode, she now finds herself out in a field. The crop field was made of 3 types of plants, and these assets were scattered across a plane, with variations in scale and rotation to get a huge level of randomness in the field, looking like something you'd see in real life. For this sequence, I thought it would be best to have most of this episode take place from the perspective of the cow. I hoped that it would be tense enough to root for an animal as it tries to escape from danger. For the crop field chase, I ran into some difficulty trying to find the best ways to shoot this sequence. I didn't want to keep showing the pair running from one side of the screen to the other. I wanted more dynamic shots to keep the energy of the sequence high. I settled on mixing wider shots to convey the endlessness of the terrain at hand, as well as closer shots to demonstrate the immediate danger from above. Due to the speed of the characters as well as the camera, I decided to not animate the movement of the grass in the field. This made my viewport a lot more responsive, but it also gave me more creative license to convey movement through sound rather than image. I did, however, opt to manually animate the reeds in the night shot of the field where the cow begins hearing movement around her in the dark. The rustling of the grass is an obvious homage to the tall grass scene from The Lost World. This, again, was an opportunity to build suspense simply through audio. Sound here plays a huge part because immersing the viewer into the situation helps the audience empathize with the cow's struggle and fear. Part 3 picks up in the crop field, where we get a glimpse of the danger in the tall grass. But I didn't want the main conflict to occur here. I wanted to replicate the claustrophobia I felt when the raptors hunted the kids in the kitchen. I didn't want a chase sequence in the grass. It's been done before, and I wanted something a little more complicated. I wanted the velociraptors in the house. The shot of the raptor walking through the house was inspired by the same shot in No One Will Save You. I was floored by how simple and effective that shot was. I remember the hairs on my neck standing when I watched that scene, which is when I made the decision to dedicate the introduction of these creatures to be in the same vein. Simple and effective. No music, no fancy camera work. Just the haunting sounds of an animal's footsteps across floorboards. I followed through with the suspense until the build-up of the dinosaur's reveal before it is stabbed and killed. To create a twist and have the reveal of the other raptors in the house be impactful, the triumphant music begins to signify the danger is over. Until it isn't. The reveal of the remaining raptors was a complicated shot to pull off because A, there were 3 of them, B, they each needed separate and interesting animations, and C, the timing of their reveals had to work in terms of building suspense and terror. Just when you think you've identified the danger, another pops out. Then another. All this was done with one long shot, holding on our heavy breathing farmer as he counts exactly what he's up against. I was planning on making each of these reveals have different cinematography, but I'm discovering more and more that a simple push in on a locked off static shot is far more effective. After the raptors are introduced, it's then up to the farmer to try and take out the trespassers one by one. To tie up the storylines of the pterosaur and the stegosaurus, I decided to have them play a role in taking care of the remaining raptors and actually do something I don't normally do: have a happy ending. Thank you so much to you guys, my channel members, as I couldn't do this without your support. Your generosity is greatly appreciated, and I hope you enjoyed the Trespasser trilogy.